Let's bring in our first guest for the day, political analyst and environmental activist, Professor Tony La Viña. Welcome back to the Storycon, Dean. Good afternoon.
Hi, Dean.
Kumusta? Hi, everyone.
Hi, sir.
Lumabas lang ako sa hearing.
Ay, ganun ba? Anong hearing niyo din?
Anong hearing, sir?
Hindi, tungkol sa environmental agenda for the 20th Congress.
Since we're on the topic, Dean, segue na tayo sa DENR. I noticed that you're pretty happy about the revamp there. You're pretty happy about DOE, Energy Secretary Lotilla being moved to DENR. I wonder if you could tell us why.
Yeah. But first of all, I want to clarify, we were happy also with Secretary Loizaga. So we have nothing to, we praise her, we thank her. But for sure, Secretary Lotilla will be a good, probably even the best environmental secretaries we have because of his background. People forget that before he became Energy Secretary, he was an expert in sustainable development. In NEDA. Nasa NEDA siya. And then, one time, he also headed an international regional organization called Partnership for the Environmental Management of the Seas of East Asia. So, may background si Professor Secretary Lotilla, of course, Professor of Law for a long time. He was my mentor and teacher in UP Law, and we were close colleagues there. So, he's very prepared for this position. I think he obviously has a understanding of a bureaucracy, I think, more than Secretary Loizaga. Diba? Ang palaging challenges for a good secretary like Secretary Loizaga, then former Secretary, Gina Lopez, is they're coming from outside. So they really don't know how the bureaucracy works. Si Secretary Lotilla knows how the bureaucracy works and will be really a good secretary because of that. Diba? He knows what the problems are. He knows what the conflict of interest are. But definitely, DENR is a much more difficult job than DOE. Mahirap ang DENR. Sa DOE, binary ang choices mo. Renewable, coal, o yan. Sa DENR, ang dami mong i-take into consideration bago mo ma-decide.
Di nabanggit mo yan. In fact, ang isang sinasabi nilang concern about the appointment of a former energy secretary, may conflict daw yung energy development sa environment. What do you say about those criticisms?
Totoo yun, kasi energy development is like an extractive industry, di ba?
Yes.
Papasok siya, di ba? But precisely, maganda nga na merong environmental secretary na may ganung background. No? He has to change his perspective now. Hindi na siya energy development, di ba? But he is now going to have to protect and conserve natural resources while sustainably managing it. Di ba? Hindi naman ibig sabihin na hindi na siya pwedeng mag-energy development. Pero alam mo, sa protected areas, bawal ang energy. Protected areas, bawal ang mining, di ba? Bawal ang logging. So he has to balance that. But if you know Papa Lotilla, Amy, walang problema sa ganyan. Ito yung isa sa pinakamabait, pinaka-fair, pinaka-competent, pinaka-intellectual na government official that you can find. At talagang simple buhay, zero corruption yan siya, incorruptible, di ba? Wala talaga siyang wala siyang sariling interest dito.
Din, if I can look at the others na yung iniintay pa natin hanggang ngayon, wala actually hanggang bukas siguro, kung ano mangyayari. Mga pending pa eh. And these are the frontline agencies. These are the agencies that deal directly with people, not like DOF and so on down the line. For example, DSWD, DOH, DepEd, DOTR, DA. They're all pending. Wala pa kayong fearless forecast kung sinong...
Or sino ba dapat?
Kung sinong who will come and who will go?
He's talking about the cabinet revamp.
Oh, yes, sir.
Ano, Ami?
Cabinet revamp yung tinatanong nila. Actually, ang speculation, mga 5 or 6 pa daw ang baka mapalitan.
Oo, hindi ko alam kung sino pang ibang papalitan. Ang alam ko na the transition dito is mangyayari na soon, no? Kasi Congress will di ba? Will assume soon. So kailangan otherwise hindi maka-assume kung dapat interim capacity. I think before Congress has to be so I think they chose Popo Lotilla for DENR kasi mahirap siya i-feel.
Oo. Pero din Tony, ano yung sense mo
Mahirap.
ano yung sense niyo, sir, overall about the way the cabinet reset was handled?
Well, going that in general naman, medyo for me problematic, no? Kasi you had a reset, you promised a reset, and then you end up what? How many are you replacing, di ba? Replacing. Yung iba kasi pinopromote mo, nilalagay mo somewhere else, di ba? So you don't give the impression of a reset. Example, isang problema ni President Marcos ay economy. Di ba? Galit ng mga tao kasi ang hirap ng mga buhay nila. But wala na siyang pinalitan sa kanyang economic managers. Pare-pareho lang, di ba? I'm not attacking any one of them. I respect them, I like them. But it doesn't give a nice picture na walang pinalitan sa economic managers when people will say, yan ang pinaka-issue nila sa Marcos administration. When they voted against the Marcos administration, di ba? In the last election. So, that for me is, parang you made a promise, tawagan namin doon, National Resignation Day, di ba? Nag-resign lahat. Ay, hindi pala. Kunti lang pala papalitan.
Din, let me reframe my question na kung kayo po ang Pangulo, sinong papalitan niyo sa mga ito? For example, may pending pa, gaya sabi ko, agriculture, DSWD, DOH, DepEd, DOTR, these are major agencies nga eh. Kung kayo po ang namumuno, tingin niyo saan dapat ilulugar yung
I don't have the data to tell you that kung sino yung performing or underperforming, di ba? So I can't really say who is to be replaced. I think ang perception na sana na kung may mga i-replace, yung mga aggressive, mga, di ba yung mga new blood, di ba? Young blood, yun sana ang i-replace. Pero if you're gonna have more of the same, bakit pa? I mean, pwede ka naman talaga magpalit as president ng cabinet mo, di ba? In one time. But you didn't have to make a promise na this is a revamp, this is a reset, di ba? I heard Paul. Yun ang sinabi ni President Marcos, narinig daw niya yung tao, di ba? Really, sa akin, as far as I'm concerned, dalawa lang talagang real change, di ba? Si Secretary Lotilla for DENR and the Secretary of Housing, di ba? The rest seems to me to be parang, di ba? I mean, Senator Secretary Manalo, I think he probably welcomes being back in New York as ambassador, di ba? The permanent mission, di ba? Of course, Secretary Lazaro is very good. Welcome ko naman yung appointment na yun. But wala namang reset talaga doon, di ba? These are all solid foreign affairs people, di ba? So I think people are still waiting kung sino pang papalitan na, di ba, na that means something to them, di ba? Sana magpalitan, di ba? Of course, si Secretary Angara, kakaupo lang, who's doing very well. Sana naman, Secretary Benitez, di ba? Huwag naman siya palitan kasi magagaling talaga yung dalawang yun, di ba? Ako personally, I will not say sino papalitan, but I will say kung sino hindi dapat palitan. Si Secretary Gatchalian, hindi din dapat palitan kasi magaling talaga si Secretary Gatchalian sa nakikita ko.
Dean, before we might run out of time, but I did want to talk to you about one other topic, which is yung DILG asking the ICC talking to the ICC to see if former President Duterte can take his oath. Diba, sir, we were just talking about this last week, about how it's very difficult because he has to do it on Philippine soil and be administered by a Philippine official. And you were saying na the government shouldn't let him do it kasi it sets a precedent. So what do you think about this now? The DILG...
I was surprised. Diba? It shows weakness on the part of the Marcos administration. It shows very real weakness, no? To let the ICC decide this instead of them deciding it, diba? Pangalawa, I think wrong sila doon, mali sila legally, na you can take your oath while not in Philippine soil. I think you have to take your oath in Philippine soil, no? So it has to be in the U.S. Embassy. So dapat ang permission, not that a consular officer go there to take the oath, to give him the oath, but for him to go to the embassy. So sa akin, mali yung, yung Secretary Mulya, if that's true na sinabi ngayon. Kailangan ng Philippine soil ang oath take. Otherwise, di ba, anyone can take an oath anywhere else, di ba, as long as may authorized official, di ba? That's a very bad precedent.
Bakit weakness, sir? Why do you see it as weakness?
It's weakness because, di ba, they are, di ba, the Dutertes and the Marcos are, di ba, are facing off each other. Di ba? I mean, let's call a spade, magkalaban sila. Bakit mo tutulog kalaban mo? Di ba? That's a sign of weakness in my view.
Din, teka, pahabol na rin. Sorry Yesterday, may lumabas na storya quoting the administration officials of the House, I think it was the majority leader, saying na majority of the Liberal Party congressmen are opting to be part of the super majority. Again, this is coming from the administration congressmen. We checked with Erin Tanyada kanina, sabi na they haven't decided on that yet. Wala pa silang final. But what do you think of that possibility? Kasi sabi ni Erin din kasi kanina, they're open to alliances, including with the administration. What do you think of that? Specifically, an alliance between the LP and the Marcos administration.
It's up that they know their politics. Except, this is my view, personal.
Opo.
I think an alliance is a kiss of death politically for 2020. Di ba, the writing on the wall, anyone may bahid suporta ni Marcos will matatalo sa 2020, di ba? So be careful. Kasi baka lahat yan, di ba?
Will come back to bite you.
So akin, yun ang pakiramdam ko. Di ba? At tingnan mo si Pam and si Kiko are very careful. Di ba? Dependent sila both from Duterte and Marcos, di ba? Yun ang importante. Now, iba na yun sa alliances within the House or the Senate, di ba? Magkaiba yun. Ang tawag natin dyan, tactical alliance, di ba? On a case-to-case, impeachment, pwede mag-tactical alliance.
Okay.
Part of majority, problema yun sa tingin ko. I prefer na akbayan, mamayang liberal will join the makabayan, it being the minority.
Okay. We'll leave that there for now because we've run out of time. But thank you so much for joining Storycon and stepping away from your hearing, sir. That's Tony La Viña, political analyst and environmental activist and former dean.